Welcome into the live batting practice show from Fenway Park. I'm Rob Bradford along with Alex Spear. There's nobody in the planet I'd rather be talking to for the live batting practice show than Alex Spear. That's a fact. It's a fact, Alex.
Fact is a generous term in your parlance, Rob, but I'm going with it.
Well, here's the thing. We've watched a lot of batting practice. We've stood on this field. We've soaked it all in, and now we get a chance to actually talk about it and share what's going on. And Alex, the first thing is, as we go through the batting practice right now, one of the things that was notable, really just a couple minutes ago, was they were all gathered around taking bunting practice, which I think I haven't seen that this year. Have you?
I have not. Competitive bunting, no less. Like it was target-based bunting, so it was creating a little bit of friendly competition among the players who can bunt the ball into the buckets when it's a high velocity that's maybe like 40 feet from the plate? Yeah, so, get ready, people participating in it.
And I'm so glad, because there is nothing that drives me more mad than not being able to bunt. When you're taught in Little League, just have the barrel tilted a little bit, and you see the major leaguers parallel, and they pop it up, or they wreck their hands or something. But that, I think, Alex, that kind of shows the time of year we're at, where the little stuff is going to matter. They know this. There's no room for error.
Right, this is the time of year we get to where execution makes a huge amount of difference, right? Like, I think that one of the great examples of all time remains the 2013 postseason, when the Red Sox were not as good as the 2013 Tigers that year. However, they ran circles around them in the ALCS that year in terms of the precision of their execution when it came to base running, when it came to looking for tips in the game, right? Like, there was obviously Joaquin Benoit and the Red Sox being able to decipher when he was going to be throwing his changeup, when he wasn't. So, this is the time of year where you pay attention to those details. In those 90 feet, the importance of those 90 feet are super magnified when it comes to a bunch of potentially low-scoring games at the crucial time of year.
And it's a great point going back to 13, and Ben Cherington was reminiscent about that while he was here, about the dynamic when you get to this point in the year, because all the little things matter. And in that case, it was the veteran player that matters, and particularly they brought in John McDonald.
Yeah.
And they have some guys on this team where they've been through this before. So a lot of people say, well, it's just another game, just treat it like another game. Well, it isn't just another game. All these games matter more, and all the little things matter more too.
And the things that you're going to do in them is going to be a little bit different when you are when the significance of each game is magnified enormously, and when that one run you're playing for one run more than you would be at other times of year.
Yeah, absolutely. And so another thing that happened earlier today was one of the time-honored traditions, which is Team Pitcher Day. Now, Alex, when I was a kid, I would always run to the newspaper, and which, again, one of the things that I still do to this day to keep the industry alive.
Go newspaper.
But
journalism, baby.
But you get the team picture. The team picture inset in the newspaper was such a huge deal. And you have this, today was a team picture, and you always like, I can't believe so-and-so is not the pitcher. I can't believe that guy had to have an inset. Well, today it seemed like everybody was in the picture, but it is like a momentous day where we take a breath. We see the guys in all whites on their bleachers and see how they smile, right?
Yeah, well, there's a novelty to seeing everyone in the white homes, right? In the white home uniform, right?
Yeah.
But beyond that, yes, it absolutely is a moment in time where you think, what is the composite picture of the team? What does this year's team consist of? And also taking stock of those who aren't there. Now, it used to be that there would be the great dynamic of are Pedro and Manny going to show up on time for the team photo, which was, for some reason, this like fantastic soap opera on a year after year basis.
Well, we would do a head count, right? This is the thing. And I don't think we need to do a head count today, but there was a dynamic always where you look at the team pitcher and you say, all right, who's not in the team pitcher, who maybe it was a World Series hero, or conversely, who was in the team pitcher, who was there for a day. I remember, and this isn't a knock on Kyle Bearclaw, because he has his moment already. But Kyle Bearclaw, I remember him just showing up the first day for the team pitcher, and he hadn't been around all year long, and here he is for the team pitcher.
Yeah, the kind of quick, like, one-game appearance guys who flitter on and off. It's a fascinating thing. It entitles you potentially to a ring, potentially to a share, to a postseason share, and also potentially to a this kind of lasting place in the list of members of a team in any given year.
Well, and Lucas Giolito, I was talking a little bit about it, and he's like you're widely overstating the team pitcher. Although I did find it fascinating who smiles and who doesn't, and why they don't or don't.
Would you be a smiler?
No.
You'd be dead serious?
No, Giolito actually, him and I had the symbiosis when we said, listen, we don't smile because we have bad teeth and we have crow's feet, so you don't want to highlight either one of them.
Wow.
But for him, I'm like, who cares? You got the beard, you're young, you're overstating this. But what he said was, one of the guys he wished was in the team pitcher is Walker Buehler. And that's one of the things, that is a very real thing. As much as lumps as he took, really, like, he was part of this team and part of this dynamic.
There is a very strange thing when you think about the people. There's obviously one of them.
Yeah.
Rafael Devers is probably another one of them. But that's those are very different circumstances of their departures from the club. But there are people over the course of a season who mean a lot, right? Like, Abraham Toro is not in the team picture.
Yeah, it's another one. Good one.
He was someone who had a considerable place in terms of the culture of this team, as well as kind of that moment of survival after Casas had his season-ending injury, and so there are people who are omitted who nonetheless made part of the overall puzzle of the season.
Listen, they may not be in the team picture, but they may get a World Series ring. Listen,
postseason chair.
Hey, Brian Villarreal didn't throw a single strike. He threw 4 balls, and he got a World Series ring in 2013.
It was a 4-pitch walk?
The 4-pitch walk.
Oh, man.
That was the thing with him.
I knew that it was a walk. I didn't remember it was a 4-pitch walk.
He got more World Series rings than he did throw strikes.
Well, certainly than he did, or record outs. I mean, that was the most incredible 1 appearance, 0 IP, 1 BB, 0 runs because he forced in someone else's run in a bases, like, what a way to debut and have your only appearance with the team. The bases loaded, extra innings, tie game situation that you end up walking off in 1 batter.
Yeah, and so another thing, Garrett Crochet is going tonight. We could talk a little bit about that because it's Crochet night and the dynamic of having a Garrett Crochet event. We went through it with the Peyton Tolley event, obviously Skeens and Tolley.
That was good.
But yeah, that was good. But, like the consistent thing this year where all these kids who are coming in the park, I got the Crochet ticket. That has become a very real thing.
My son's here today, and he said,
I got the Crochet
today,
ticket.
and he said, crochets.
Yeah.
There is a level of juice and a level of excitement that goes along with someone who very clearly belongs in the conversation for the top 5 pitchers in all of baseball, and who's delivered consistent dominance, where you show up and you have this probably unfair, but not unrealistic expectation that there's a possibility you'll see someone just absolutely overpower another group of Major League players.
And another thing, Alex, I was explaining this to someone today about, obviously we're into September, and everyone's wishing me a happy birthday the day before my birthday. But
happy almost birthday.
Almost birthday.
Happy penultimate day.
It's a 2-day celebration.
Yes, I can recite the number.
But we're sitting here at batting practice at just after 4 o'clock, and we're not in the sun. On a sunny day.
Good point.
And why I'm saying this is because this is a time of year where Garrett Crochet's pitching in a game in September that means something, where they have to turn the lights on here in just a mere matter of minutes. And that's the time of year. It feels different here right now.
Yeah, well, we started to see it actually at the kind of at the last homestand where it was like, it's unseasonably cool. Oh, right, this is how it's supposed to be in the most important games. So, I think that there is everyone knows it. Everyone feels it when the schedule does turn to September and when rosters expand. There's a reminder that something is changing and that the games, the feeling around the games changes as well.
All right, well, listen, we got more coming up. There's a lot going on here. I'm having a time of my. This is the best batting practice I've ever had.
No one I'd rather be observing this batting practice with Rob.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back right after this. All right, welcome back to the batting practice show live at Fenway Park. There's a briskness in the air. It feels like postseason's right around the corner, and there's nobody who knows that feeling more than Bruce Hurst. Bruce Hurst, who is iconic, the guy that I tried, one of the many guys from the '86 team which I tried to emulate. So I appreciate you. And Bruce, first of all, good to have you here. It's so awesome to see you.
Here. Really great being back at Fenway.
And so the first question I have, which is probably not something you thought you'd be asked when you woke up this morning, but Garrett Crochet is pitching today. You guys had very similar leg kicks, which hurts me to think about.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, so like Crochet, that's one of the underrated thing about Crochet, right? That he has this enormous, almost Eck-like leg kick, but you had a pretty significant leg kick too.
Well, it was all part of the delivery, right? It's
Yeah.
to create balance, create timing, you kind of learn how to sync up with that. So it's a timing mechanism, was for me.
More timing than deception, or do you think that it actually like gives the batters something else to kind of like messes with their viewpoint of where the release is coming from?
It gives you a little bit of both, but for me, I needed to have something that I could help synchronize my delivery. Sometimes you're a little quick, sometimes you're a little slow, and you can, at least I could, right? I could moderate, my delivery and a pace and all that stuff with my leg kick, a little higher, a little lower, that kind of stuff. And deception, I think, was a nice feature of it too.
So when you look at like a guy like Crochet, do you see some of the things that he does in you? Obviously lefties and big guys, big leg kicks, good breaking balls, all these things. When you watch these guys, you say, okay, I see what he's doing there. I can really relate to that.
A little bit. Crochet throws significantly harder than I did, so that was that's a nice feature to be able to throw out there. But yeah, a little bit. I mean, as I look at pitching it, I'm less involved, I'm less concerned about velo and spin rate. I know that's the buzzwords now. I'm more about command, learning how to command a baseball in the strike zone, and then learn how to add and subtract in those spots. So guys that throw like that, maybe right, and then break.
By the way, this is a travesty that they didn't have.
Park is that like despite coming through the Red Sox, there was a period of the
blown. Lefties can't pitch here. Lefties can't time. It ends up being this fly ball. It's out everywhere, but it's off the top of the wall and for a field to pitch to. In my era, when we learned to pitch, right, our whole goal is to keep the ball on the ground and in front of the outfielders. We don't want to split the gaps. We want to know where the players were, or the runner was all the time, and play base to base. It took 2 or 3 hits to score 1 run. So that was kind of our philosophy at the time. And this ballpark plays to that very well, especially when you have guys like Dwight and Freddie Lynn and Ellis Burks and Tony Armas and David Henderson, all the guys that I played with in center field, right? That can be able to, eat those gaps up a little bit, and then had such tremendous arms that we could made them play station to station. So that's the way we did it then. And a punch out, we could punch people out, right? But we picked our spots when it wasn't every pitch trying to strike somebody out. So it was a little different era.
When we talk about how this feels right now, it's feeling like the sun's going down a little quicker. We're creeping toward the postseason. I love the conversation of finding the starters who are going to carry you through the postseason. Congratulations, you were one of them.
Thank you.
I mean,
I appreciate that.
But every good postseason run has these guys. And from your perspective, number one, what was that feeling like of knowing that you're pitching at your best at the most important time? And then how important is that? Because we talk about bullpen games and everything else, but still to have guys like you, to have guys like Lester and Beckett and these guys, so important, right?
Yeah, it matters. Starting pitching matters. And especially if you can get somebody that can go out there and be effective deep into a game, right? That gives you a lot more arms to deal with in the bullpen instead of spending them early. Postseason play, I think there's an advantage for pitchers. There's a lot of pressure. The bat gets sometimes a little heavy. The grip gets a little tight on the bat. Learn how to stay poised and relaxed. Stay focused on the things that matter, right? For me, glove, target is the only thing that mattered. Stay on target, stay on task, and let the rest of it play where it is. But it was all about making pitches and recognizing that the pressure is just as big on the opposing hitters than it is on us. So, use it to your advantage.
Oh, what a feeling that must have been, though. Oh, my goodness.
It was a blast.
Listen, I don't know if you got the screenshot, or not to bring up the 86, but the screenshot, Bruce Hurst, congratulations, World Series MVP. I mean, that's something.
Well, yeah, it's something. I don't know what it is, but honestly, I mean, if we would have won, it'd been nice to win the MVP, but we had so many guys that had such really good series that, it could have been any of us. So anyway, it was so close yet so far away.
Yeah, well, it is interesting. You refer to that being a special group. It was a group that had come up together in many respects, right? Particularly, like, you had so many years with the pitching staff. This is an interesting time for the Boston Red Sox because we're seeing guys like we're seeing kind of a wave of a number of homegrown starters starting to percolate through the system. Peyton Tolley, who made his big league debut the other day, is among them. They have other guys in AAA who are coming through the system. In your mind, in order to push each other's development, like, how helpful is it to have a group that comes up together and has been having these conversations about pitching, not just when they're introduced to each other midway through their big league careers, but also as they come up through the minors?
I think it's one of the most valuable things you can have. We all have the same experience. So, not to get on my soapbox too much here, and I'll try to keep this quick. One of the things about the minor league that's so unique, right, is that the people you're really competing against, right, are the guys on your own team. I may be pitching against another team in the minor leagues, and that's what's on the back of my baseball cards or whatever, right? But the guys I'm competing with are on my own team. That's the spots that we're competing for in the big league club, right, not the other guys. So there's this inherent jealousy sometimes that creeps into the conversation, right? When you come up through a system with people, you learn early to put that away, right? And then when you learn, like, there's a place for all of us, right, then you learn to really pull for one another. Clemens is the one, for me, that took that to the next level. He was so incredible, right, at lifting, the high tide lifts all boats, and he pulled for everyone equally. And he created this environment where it was all for one and one for all. And when you come through the system together, I think that's a lot easier to do.
Get Dwight Evans in the Hall of Fame, right?
I hope so.
Yeah.
He's He's a Hall of Fame player.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why? What's your case?
My case? Well, I know that statistically for those 10 years, right, he had more homers and doubles than ever. I was a recipient of a lot of that, right? But I think there's a lot of guys who are in the Hall of Fame because of their offense. And I think there's a lot of guys in the Hall of Fame because of their defense. Dwight's a Hall of Famer because he played both sides of the ball. Yep. He was a tremendously productive offensive player, got better as the years went on, and obviously he's a multiple Gold Glove winner. He was a great base runner. He was a great teammate. He was a great player, and he played a lot, and he played a long time. I don't know what else you have to do. I think we get magic. There's magic in the 500 home runs and 3,000 hits, and we add subtract off of that. Dwight's a Hall of Fame baseball player.
Bruce, man, it's been a pleasure and an honor to be here with you, and it does feel, I mean it, where you were the epitome of a big game pitcher, and everyone in this ballpark really appreciates everything you've done for the Red Sox.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It was a beautiful place to play.
All right, thanks so much.
Great to see you, Bruce.
All right, well, we got more from the batting practice show. We're going to be here at Fenway Park, setting the scene, what's going on, leading up to the big game against Cleveland again, Crochet Day. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back, everybody. This is the batting practice show live from Fenway Park. I'm Rob Bradford, Alex Spear.
I'd like to point out that my status as the person you wanted to talk to the most during this show was definitely upended. You know, very well. You know, when Bruce Hurst shows up, then you change the pecking
why both of you are here. There are no two people in the world that I'd rather be talking to, and it was honestly, every time I get a chance to talk to anybody from that team, it's a pleasure because
it's incredible.
Right, that was my formative years of you're watching it, and again, I know that for him that was a tough moment, but how excited I was to see Bruce Hurst World Series MVP. It was pretty cool.
Someone who, you know, I did not grow up in the Boston area, but like even as someone who hadn't watched Hurst's career growth, I remember very vividly how dominant he was over the course of that postseason, and particularly over the course of that World Series. So it is cool to think about, and it's one of the things that makes Fenway such a fascinating place to be around when you're able to think about something that happened a couple of baseball generations ago. And like, you get to be around here, and here he is back on the field where he played.
And you know, there's nothing to like more other than yourself than a big 12-6 curveball like Bruce threw. But you know, I want to come back to the fact that that we have what's going on here, and really like what the dynamic is with this team right now. We should take a pause, a beat, and understand that things are going pretty well for this team right now. Heading in, you're in a good place in the standings. Tiebreakers, you're in a pretty good spot. Health-wise, you're in a pretty good spot, knock on wood. But as we sit here on September 2nd, as they're taking batting practice, they're in a pretty good spot.
I mean, they have every reason to feel like they're in a good position, and they have a lot in front of them, right? Like there is a reason why there's this kind of energy that exists in the clubhouse and across the organization that wasn't necessarily present in recent Septembers. You no longer take this for granted, right? There were times when you could take for granted that meaningful September games and playing in October were going to be part of the baseball calendar, and that hasn't been the case in recent years. This team has played in a way that they've proven they've made themselves worthy of being in a position of playing the most exciting kind of baseball.
Well, speaking of the most exciting, that means extra baseball, and we talked about Bruce about going through the postseason, and we're lining up who's going to pitch in the postseason. Another dynamic of that is extra innings, extra pitches, being able to get through that, and in this day and age, that becomes more of a question mark than ever. You look at Sean Manaea, hit 200 innings and literally fell off a cliff. Not literally, but he fell off a cliff.
I believe from Sean Manaea, the Manaea family.
Yes, my apologies to the Manaea family. But he fell off a cliff. I mean, right at 200 innings, boom, there it was. And you have Zach Gallen a couple years ago, 240 innings, and really sort of been a struggle since. So how do you think the Red Sox are preparing the Crochets of the world, the Bayos of the world, the Giolitos of the world for what's coming up?
It is a very interesting question because we're seeing these guys who are going to be reaching uncharted territory in terms of season-long workload. Less so Giolito, even though he hasn't pitched in recent years, because he's only around 120 innings thus far, so he still says that he feels quite fresh. But, Bayo has never had the experience of pitching into October. Crochet has pitched in October, but not as a starter, so he's already getting into uncharted territory in terms of workload. You are seeing them probably taking opportunities to not go on what is traditionally described as normal rest of 4 days, and now represents in my mind short rest, because you rarely shortchange pitchers that fifth day anymore. And I think that at every opportunity that the Red Sox get to provide that little bit of breathing room, it makes sense to take advantage of it, knowing that the workload and the times that you're called upon become so unpredictable in the postseason. We saw the Rovers back in 2018.
Well, that's another thing, is that everybody, you look at Toronto, for instance, said, oh my goodness, they have these starters. Well, some of those starters could go to the bullpen. That's how this works. But, another thing is that you have, last year was the first time ever relievers pitched more innings than starters. I don't think that'll happen again. I think everyone learned their lesson. The Dodgers were on the verge of running out of pitchers. Yeah. And so I think that teams understand you cannot go through it. Detroit, they hit a wall, right?
Well, we've seen this since so things flipped I feel like Terry Francona played an enormous role in terms of changing the dynamic of how the game is managed. Starting in 16, when Cleveland really didn't have starting pitching available because of a number of injuries, and all of a sudden, bang, Tito is going to Andrew Miller in the middle innings, right? And it was incredible. They were able to ride that wave to get into the World Series, and then to get to a 3-1 lead in the World Series, and then every one of those relievers hit a wall, right? And so you saw Miller, and you saw Chapman, and you saw everyone giving it up in Game 7 of the World Series who had been nails up to that point. So I do think that the value of having starters deliver innings on a regular schedule is pretty high.
I do want to go back to my excellent question of Hurst about his leg kick. I love a good leg kick. And I think that this is one of the things that hasn't been talked enough with Crochet is it's an Eck-like leg kick.
I think Bronson Arroyo. I'm interested. It's
That's
like a reverse Arroyo to me. Because it has the toe point.
Yeah.
Like Eck was the real, like, Eck had a pronounced, leg lift, but it wasn't a. I mean, there was some crossbody on the straight leg, but I feel like the complete straight leg, you're going Arroyo.
Well, another thing about Crochet that we should appreciate is that he's doing this while pegging his jeans. In other words, when I say this to Marcelo Mar, he has no idea what I'm talking about. When you were going out in the town in the 90s, you had the jeans on, you were rolling up the jeans, and that's what Crochet does to his uniform, and like it's form-fitting. And it is, and he said, he's like, I started doing it in Tennessee, and I was shocked that the coach didn't say anything. I thought for sure that he was not going to let me. But listen, if you're that good, you can do anything you want, right?
Yeah, well, I guess, jeans pegging is going to become very popular. All the rage in October, Rob.
Oh, the Peyton Tolley mustaches and jean pegging is the big thing. And which, by the way, we should know, Alice Cora said today, Peyton Tolley going to start on Friday.
Right.
We still are waiting to find out what's going to go on Wednesday. It still, I think, depends a little bit on what happened today. Could be a bullpen game. Could be Kyle Harrison.
With the possibility that Dustin May is going to be used in some way out of the bullpen over the course of that. Maybe he said that he could be available for up to 40 pitches out of the bullpen as he kind of gets skipped in this turn of the rotation. So some interesting dynamics unfolding.
Listen, this is the best batting practice that I've ever experienced going back to Essex Memorial Field, right? Which, if you hit the flagpole, it was automatic win of the game. So, these guys are trying to do their best, but it's been awesome talking with you. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, I'm flattered to be above Essex in the power rankings, but Rob, it's been a blast.
All right, well, this has been the BP Show live from Fenway Park. For Alex Beer, I'm Rod Bradford.